I still remember the smell of dust and old wood in my childhood bedroom, the way sunlight slipped through the cracked blinds and landed perfectly on the shelf where I kept my medals from high school track. That room wasn't just a space, it was the only place that ever felt entirely mine. So when I left for deployment, I locked the door, handed my spare key to my mom, and told her, just keep it the way it is. She smiled, hugged me tight, and said, of course. It'll be waiting for you. At the time, I believed her without question. When you're heading overseas, you hold on to promises like that. They become your anchor in the middle of chaos. The months that followed were nothing like home. Heat, noise, tension, every day felt like it stretched forever. But at night, when things quieted down, I would think about that room. The posters on the wall, the old desk with carved initials, the closet that still smelled faintly like detergent in summer. It grounded me. It reminded me of who I was before everything changed. My mom would send occasional messages, short and simple. We're proud of you. Stay safe. Never once did she mention anything about the house, or my room, or changes. And I never thought to ask. Some things, you just assume are safe. When I finally returned, it wasn't the homecoming I had imagined. There were no balloons, no big hugs at the airport. My mom said she had work and couldn't make it, so I took a cab back to the house alone. I remember standing in front of the door, my heart racing with a strange mix of excitement and exhaustion. I unlocked it, stepped inside, and immediately felt like something was wrong. The air smelled different, cleaner, almost artificial. The walls looked brighter. New furniture sat where old memories used to be. I dropped my bag slowly, my eyes scanning the living room as confusion settled in. Then I walked toward the hallway. Toward my room. The door was open. It shouldn't have been open. I stepped inside and froze. Everything was gone. The bed, the desk, the posters, the shelves, gone. In their place was a perfectly staged guest room, like something out of a catalog. Neutral colors, matching pillows, no trace of me, not even a dent in the carpet where my bed used to sit. My chest tightened as I walked further in, opening the closet like I expected something, anything, to still be there. It was empty, completely empty. That's when I heard her voice behind me. Oh, you're back already. I turned slowly. My mom stood in the doorway, keys still in her hand, like she had just come home from work. Her expression wasn't guilt or shock. It was annoyance, like I had interrupted something. What happened to my room? I asked, my voice low and strained. She sighed, stepping inside like this was a normal conversation. I redecorated, she said casually. It was time for a change. I stared at her, trying to process the words. Where's my stuff? I asked. She hesitated for a second, then shrugged. I sold it. The words hit harder than anything I had experienced overseas. You what? I whispered. I auctioned it off, she said, like it was no big deal. You've been gone for over a year. I needed the space, and honestly, some of that stuff had value. People love vintage things. I felt my hands start to shake. Those weren't things, I said. That was my life. She rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic. It's just furniture and old junk. You're an adult now. Time to move on. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You didn't even ask me, I said. You promised you'd keep it the same. Her tone sharpened. And you left. I had to make decisions for this house. I didn't argue after that. I couldn't. Something inside me had cracked open, and all I could feel was this hollow emptiness. I grabbed my bag and walked out without another word. That night, I stayed at a cheap motel, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. The room I had carried in my memories through sleepless nights, through fear, through everything, it didn't exist anymore. And the person who had promised to protect it had erased it without a second thought. The next morning, I tried to figure out my next steps. I had planned to stay home while I transitioned back, maybe take some time before figuring out work or school. But now, I had nowhere to go. As I sat on the edge of the motel bed, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Hello, is this Staff Sergeant Daniel Hayes? The voice asked. Yes, I replied cautiously. This is regarding your VA benefits and housing support. We attempted to reach your listed residence yesterday, but there was an issue. I frowned. What kind of issue? There was a brief pause. The homeowner denied access and claimed you no longer reside there. However, according to our records, that address is still registered under your name for transitional assistance. We need to verify your living situation. My grip on the phone tightened. You went to my house. Yes, the voice said. And we'll need to follow up in person. There are concerns about potential misuse of benefits tied to that address. For the first time since I walked into that empty room, something shifted inside me. Confusion turned into focus. Because whatever my mom had done, it wasn't just about my room anymore. And it sounded like someone official was about to knock on her door. I didn't go back to the house that day. Instead, I waited. Something told me it would be better to let things unfold on their own. By the afternoon, my phone lit up again, this time with my mom's name flashing across the screen. I stared at it for a moment before answering. The second I did, her voice came rushing through, sharp and panicked. "What did you do?" she snapped. I leaned back against the motel wall, my expression calm for the first time since I got back. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Don't play dumb," she shot back. "Some people from the VA showed up here asking questions. They said something about inspections and benefits. Why is my house involved in your paperwork?" I let a small breath out. "Maybe because it was never just your house," I said. "Maybe because you told them I didn't live there anymore." There was silence on the other end, thick and uncomfortable. "I had to say something," she muttered. "You weren't here." "I was deployed," I replied. "That's not the same as leaving." She tried to regain control of the conversation, her tone shifting into something more defensive. "Look, I didn't think it mattered. It's just paperwork. You're overreacting." I closed my eyes for a second, steadying myself. "You sold everything I owned without asking. You told federal officials I don't live there. And now you think it's just paperwork." My voice didn't rise, but it didn't need to. The truth carried enough weight on its own. "They're coming back tomorrow," she said quickly. "You need to fix this. Tell them it was a misunderstanding." I sat up straighter, a new clarity settling in. "No," I said firmly. "I'm not fixing anything." Her voice cracked slightly. "Daniel, please, this could turn into something serious." I let out a quiet, almost bitter laugh. "It already is serious," I said. "You just didn't think it would come back to you." The next day, I stood across the street from the house, watching as a government vehicle pulled up to the curb. Two officials stepped out, clipboards in hand, their expressions unreadable. My mom opened the door before they even knocked, her face tense, her movements stiff. I couldn't hear the conversation from where I stood, but I could see everything. The way she gestured inside, trying to explain. The way they remained calm, methodical, taking notes. At one point, one of them stepped aside and made a phone call. That's when I knew this wasn't going to be brushed off. Later that afternoon, I received another call from the VA. "We've completed our initial assessment," the voice said. "There appear to be discrepancies between the reported living arrangements and the benefits being issued. We'll be opening a formal review." I nodded, even though they couldn't see me. "Understood," I replied. "We'll also be assisting you in securing proper housing," they added. "You're eligible for immediate support." For the first time in days, I felt something close to relief. Not because of what was happening to my mom, but because someone was finally putting things back in order. That evening, my mom showed up at the motel. She knocked repeatedly until I opened the door. Her usual confidence was gone, replaced by something fragile and desperate. "You need to help me," she said the moment she stepped inside. "They're talking about investigations, about fraud." I didn't know it would go this far. I looked at her for a long moment, seeing her not as the person who raised me, but as someone who had made a choice, and was now facing the consequences. "You knew enough," I said quietly. "You knew it wasn't yours to sell. You knew I was coming back." Tears filled her eyes. "I thought you'd moved on," she whispered. "I thought you wouldn't care about that old room." I shook my head slowly. "It wasn't about the room," I said. "It was about respect, about trust." She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. Not out of anger, just clarity. "I can't fix this for you," I said. "You made your decisions. Now you have to face them." She stood there for a moment, like she wanted to argue, to plead, to say something that would change my mind. But there was nothing left to say. Eventually, she turned and walked out, the door closing softly behind her. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. The VA helped me secure a small apartment, furnished with the basics I needed to start over. It wasn't my childhood room, and it never would be, but it was mine. A fresh start built on something real, not something taken. As for my mom, the investigation continued. I didn't follow every detail, but I knew enough. Actions have consequences, even when they come from people who think they're above them. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about that room. The sunlight, the posters, the quiet sense of belonging. It's gone now, replaced by something I'll never get back. But in a strange way, losing it forced me to see everything clearly. It showed me who I could rely on, and who I couldn't. And when the VA knocked on her door, it wasn't just about benefits or paperwork. It was the moment everything she took finally came knocking back.